In today's video, we're diving into a shocking incident that involved Sasha Obama, the daughter of former President Barack Obama, who found herself unfairly treated during a routine airport security check. Imagine the scene: a young woman with no criminal history, simply trying to catch a flight, only to be subjected to an unexpected and unjust encounter with airport security. This is a story that highlights not just the struggles of a well-known public figure's family, but also an issue that many people face: unfair treatment and discrimination. So, how did this unfold? Well, Sasha Obama was going through the usual process at an airport when she was suddenly flagged for an intense security check. The staff seemed to be questioning her every move, and security officials were clearly treating her with more suspicion than necessary. There was no clear reason for this behavior. Was it a simple misunderstanding, or was there something more to the story? As things escalated, the situation grew increasingly frustrating for Sasha, who found herself unfairly singled out without explanation. This all started to feel more like a scene from a thriller than a simple airport encounter. But the twist? Sasha wasn't alone in this moment of tension. Her father, former President Barack Obama, was there to ensure that justice was served. With his influence and quick thinking, he stepped in and clarified the situation, showing that even in times of injustice, there's always hope when you stand up for what's right. This story isn't just about the Obamas. It's about the broader issue of discrimination and unfair treatment that happens in various parts of life. In this video, we're going to explore what happened, the lessons we can learn from this incident, and why it's crucial to speak up when we witness or experience discrimination. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoy this kind of content. Subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories, and make sure to leave a comment to share your thoughts. What do you think about this incident? Have you ever experienced something similar? We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's get into the story of how Sasha Obama handled this intense moment and what we can learn from it. Stay tuned. The incident involving Sasha Obama, a member of one of the most recognized families in the United States, began as an ordinary day of travel, but quickly spiraled into an extraordinary and deeply troubling experience. It all started at a major airport, a location that should have been routine for someone with the stature and resources of Sasha Obama. Yet, what transpired during her interaction with security personnel was anything but routine. Sasha was traveling alone, perhaps to visit friends or attend an event. As she made her way through the airport, she followed the usual process of passing through security, expecting nothing more than the occasional delay or minor inconvenience that many travelers face. After all, she was no stranger to airports, given her high-profile status and the fact that she had traveled frequently throughout her life as the daughter of the former president. However, things began to take an unexpected turn when her name was flagged by the security system. This was the first indication that something was amiss. At first, it seemed like a simple mistake or misunderstanding, a common occurrence at busy airports where names can sometimes match with those of individuals who might be of concern. But what followed was far more troubling. The security personnel, instead of promptly resolving the situation, began to treat her with a level of suspicion that seemed out of place for someone like Sasha Obama. They questioned her more aggressively than most passengers would experience, demanding that she provide additional documentation and justifying her travel in a way that felt intrusive. The scrutiny was far beyond the usual random checks that any traveler might undergo. The officers seemed to be treating her as though she were a potential threat, without providing any clear rationale for the heightened attention. Sasha, who had never been involved in any legal issues or criminal activity, found herself at a complete loss. She had always maintained a low profile, avoiding the media and staying out of the spotlight as much as possible, especially compared to her famous father, former President Barack Obama. The sudden attention felt unnecessary, and worse, it seemed to be driven by assumptions that had no basis in reality. As the minutes ticked by, the tension between Sasha and the airport security staff grew. It became clear that she was being treated differently, and this wasn't lost on the surrounding passengers. Some of them began to take notice of what was happening, exchanging glances and whispers. It was an uncomfortable scene. one that seemed to be more about a deep-rooted bias or even racial profiling than a simple security measure. At one point, it appeared that Sasha was being singled out for additional questioning that other passengers were not subjected to. She was told that her personal belongings would need to be thoroughly searched, despite the fact that there was no visible reason for such a search. This level of interrogation was a far cry from the usual process, which made her wonder whether her last name had something to do with the extra scrutiny. After all, being the daughter of a former president carried a lot of weight, and with that weight came attention, both positive and negative. But it wasn't just the treatment that felt unjust. It was the utter lack of clarity and communication. Sasha tried to remain calm and cooperative, explaining that she had no idea why she was being treated this way. She offered to comply with any additional security protocols, but all she received in return was a stony silence from the officers, who seemed unwilling to explain their actions. The more she tried to get answers, the more she felt like she was being trapped in an inexplicable situation. As the tension reached its peak, Sasha began to feel a sense of helplessness, a feeling that many people of color or individuals who find themselves in similar predicaments experience when they are unfairly targeted. It was a reminder that, regardless of one's status or influence, discrimination could strike at any moment. And for Sasha, who had spent most of her life under intense public scrutiny, this incident was a harsh reminder of the prejudices that still exist, even when one's name and face are known to millions. But this wasn't just about Sasha. This was about a much larger issue that affects countless individuals daily. The conflict at the airport highlighted the systemic problems that exist within institutions, whether those institutions are public or private. In this case, it was airport security, the very system that is meant to ensure public safety but, as this incident showed, can sometimes be a vehicle for racial profiling, unfair treatment, and even discrimination. In these situations, it's easy to forget that the person being targeted is still just a human being, someone who is not defined by their background or their association with powerful figures. Sasha Obama, despite her public life, was still just a young woman who had every right to expect the same level of respect and fair treatment as any other passenger in the airport. The longer this episode dragged on, the more Sasha's frustration grew. It was clear that the security officers were not willing to back down, and their refusal to acknowledge their apparent mistake only escalated the situation. What had started as a simple security check had now evolved into a full-blown conflict, one that seemed to have no easy resolution in sight. It wasn't until the situation reached a boiling point that help arrived. Sasha's father, former President Barack Obama, who had been waiting in a separate part of the airport, was alerted to what was happening. He immediately approached the security checkpoint, where he was greeted with both concern and resistance from the officers. His presence alone was enough to make the situation take a dramatic turn. Barack Obama, a man accustomed to handling intense situations with grace and diplomacy, quickly took charge. With his calm demeanor and unwavering confidence, he asked the officers to explain why his daughter was being treated this way. His involvement in the matter was not just a protective father trying to resolve an unjust situation. It was a clear statement that no one, regardless of their status or background, should be subjected to unfair or discriminatory treatment. The officers, realizing that they were in the midst of a high-profile incident, seemed to back off. The situation was resolved within minutes of Barack Obama's intervention. The security staff apologized, though the damage had already been done. Sasha, who had been subjected to intense stress and humiliation, was finally allowed to continue with her journey. The entire experience, however, left a lasting impression on her and served as a painful reminder of the challenges that come with being a public figure, especially when race and assumptions about privilege play a role in the way you are treated. This event wasn't just about Sasha Obama's personal experience. It was a microcosm of the larger societal issues that we face. It showed how easily an individual can be unfairly targeted, and it highlighted the importance of standing up for what is right when we see injustice taking place. The conflict, though resolved, left many unanswered questions. What if Barack Obama had not been there to intervene? Would the situation have escalated further? How many other people, without the privilege of a high-profile figure stepping in, might find themselves in a similar predicament, unable to get the attention or help they need. These are the questions that continue to linger long after the incident has passed. After the tense and uncomfortable confrontation at the airport, the situation eventually reached its resolution, but not without leaving a profound mark on both Sasha Obama and the public. The intervention of her father, former President Barack Obama, was a turning point that quickly defused the conflict. However, while the immediate crisis was averted, the deeper implications of the incident remained significant, sparking reflection and dialogue on issues like racial profiling, systemic biases, and the challenges that public figures, especially those of color, face in everyday situations. In the immediate aftermath, Sasha's experience became a point of discussion across media outlets and social platforms. Some praised the way Barack Obama handled the situation, highlighting his calm and diplomatic approach, while others focused on the larger systemic issues the incident revealed. For many, it was a stark reminder of the reality of racial profiling and how even those who were seen as privileged, like the children of prominent figures, are not exempt from the discriminatory behaviors that persist in society. Though the issue was resolved without further incident, the event left a sense of unease and discomfort in its wake. Sasha, while relieved to be able to continue her travels, expressed her frustration with how the situation unfolded. It was just a normal day, and then suddenly everything changed. She remarked to a close friend in a private conversation, "I never expected something like this to happen to me, especially not in a place that's supposed to make me feel safe and secure." Despite the resolution, the emotional toll of the experience lingered for Sasha, as a young woman navigating life under the constant scrutiny of the public eye. She had been accustomed to the pressure and the attention that came with being a member of a high-profile family. However, this encounter made her keenly aware of the vulnerability that comes with being racially profiled and the harsh reality that systemic racism can target anyone, regardless of their social standing. The fact that she was subjected to this treatment, despite her background, her father's legacy, and her own established identity, served as a painful reminder that no one is immune from prejudice. For her, the experience was a clarifying moment. It made her realize how easy it was for assumptions to be made about someone based on their race, background, or even the mere association with powerful figures. What happened to her wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a reflection of broader societal issues that continue to plague not only airports and security systems, but also other institutions where individuals are judged based on their appearance, their name, or their perceived social status. It made her question the fairness of a system that claimed to be neutral yet often reinforced biases in ways that were deeply ingrained and difficult to confront. The resolution of the conflict, with her father's swift intervention and the security officer's apology, may have provided immediate relief, but it did not erase the deeper questions that arose from the incident. For Sasha, it raised critical issues about fairness, equality, and justice. While she was able to leave the airport and continue her journey, the emotional scars of the event would stay with her for some time. And the lessons she took away were not simply about the need for patience and composure during moments of stress, but about the urgency of confronting the larger forces at play. Moreover, the aftermath of the situation spurred a broader conversation in society. Public figures and ordinary citizens alike began to voice their opinions on the incident, with many expressing their disbelief that someone like Sasha Obama could be subjected to such treatment. Some, especially those within the Black community, saw it as yet another example of the ways in which institutional racism manifests in everyday life. Even when you're someone, you're still seen as other, one observer commented. No amount of fame or wealth can shield you from being treated as less than. This incident did not just have an impact on Sasha Obama. It became a touchstone for people across the country who had experienced similar forms of discrimination. It reminded the public that, despite the progress made over the years in civil rights and racial equality, the fight for justice and equality was far from over. The conversation about racism, privilege, and inequality was reignited, and many people, particularly those who had been personally affected by similar experiences, felt a renewed sense of urgency in addressing these systemic issues. For some, This incident reinforced the idea that the fight for equality needed to extend beyond public demonstrations or high-profile cases. It needed to take place in the everyday interactions that occur in spaces like airports, schools, and workplaces. These mundane environments, where people often assume they are just going about their business, were also places where deep-rooted biases could manifest. It became clear that, if change were to happen, these moments needed to be scrutinized and challenged. Even small actions, like the treatment of a passenger at security, could have ripple effects that contributed to larger systemic problems. The resolution of the incident, while marking the end of a particularly troubling day for Sasha, also pointed to a broader need for institutional reforms in the way people are treated based on their race, social status, and personal background. It wasn't enough for security personnel to merely apologize and move on. The situation called for a more profound reassessment of security protocols, training, and the way biases were being reinforced in these everyday settings. For Sasha, the takeaway was clear. She would not allow this experience to define her, but she would use it to fuel her desire to contribute to positive change. Although she had been humiliated in the moment, she emerged from the ordeal with a stronger sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the complexities of race and privilege. She became more determined than ever to raise awareness about the importance of fairness and equity in all aspects of society. Her experience, while personal, was a microcosm of the broader societal issues that needed to be confronted head-on. In the days that followed, Sasha became more involved in discussions surrounding racial justice and the challenges of living in a world where discrimination still ran rampant. She spoke with friends, mentors, and community leaders about her experience, and together they brainstormed ways to bring attention to the need for change. She realized that her public platform, even as a young woman just starting out in life, could be used to advocate for a more inclusive and just society. She recognized that, while the incident at the airport had been a painful and personal experience, it also provided an opportunity for growth, activism, and advocacy. Sasha's father, Barack Obama, also used the situation to reflect on the broader issues at play. He made several public statements about the importance of addressing systemic racism and the need for continued work to ensure that all individuals, regardless of their background or appearance, were treated with dignity and respect. His statements were not just a response to his daughter's experience, but also a call to action for others to engage in meaningful conversations about race, privilege, and the structures that allowed such injustices to persist. Ultimately, the resolution of the incident was bittersweet. The immediate crisis was resolved, but the emotional impact remained. However, the takeaway was clear for both Sasha and the public. This event underscored the necessity of addressing the deep-seated biases and systemic issues that continue to shape people's lives. It reminded us that, while progress has been made, there is still much work to be done in the pursuit of true equality. Sasha's experience at the airport, as unsettling as it was, became a catalyst for change. Through it, she found her voice and purpose, using her platform to advocate for a more just and fair society. For the public, the incident served as a stark reminder that the fight for equality is not over, and that every individual, regardless of their position or background, has a role to play in shaping a better future for all. The incident at the airport involving Sasha Obama was more than just a personal experience. It became a reflection of larger societal issues that still need urgent attention. While the situation was resolved in the immediate aftermath, the lasting impact it had on Sasha and the broader public was undeniable. It brought to light the persistent realities of racial profiling, unconscious bias, and systemic discrimination that continue to affect everyday lives, even for those who are seemingly shielded by their fame or status. The public outcry that followed demonstrated how much more work needs to be done to create an equitable society where everyone, regardless of their background or appearance, is treated with fairness and dignity. The resolution of the conflict, though temporary, served as a reminder that such instances of racial injustice are not isolated events. They are part of a pattern of behavior that affects millions of people across the world, especially within marginalized communities. While Sasha Obama's experience may have drawn attention because of her high-profile status, It is crucial to recognize that similar experiences happen every day to countless individuals who do not have the same platform or recognition. This disparity underscores the urgent need for change on both an individual and institutional level. As a society, we must reflect on the treatment of people in various public spaces, from airports to workplaces, schools, and beyond. The pervasive nature of racial profiling means that we all have a responsibility to challenge these injustices whenever we witness them, whether in our personal lives or through the broader systems that shape our communities. It is not enough to simply acknowledge the existence of bias. We must actively work to dismantle the systems that perpetuate it. For Sasha Obama, the experience served as both a painful wake-up call and a source of motivation. She turned the frustration and confusion she felt into a call for action, determined to use her voice and platform to advocate for systemic change. This determination serves as an example for all of us, whether we are public figures or ordinary citizens. Each of us has the power to contribute to the fight for justice, and it starts by acknowledging the problems and then working together toward tangible solutions. As we move forward, it is essential to understand that real change requires more than just conversations. It requires sustained action. For individuals, this means educating ourselves about the realities of systemic discrimination, calling out biased behavior when we see it, and advocating for policies that promote inclusivity and equality. For institutions, it means reevaluating practices, implementing anti-bias training, and fostering environments where diversity is not only accepted but celebrated. We must work to create a world where every person, regardless of their race, gender, or background, can feel safe, respected, and valued in every space they occupy. The message is clear. Racial inequality and discrimination cannot be ignored or swept under the rug. They must be confronted head-on, and it is only through collective action that we can hope to make a meaningful impact. If we are to honor the legacy of individuals like Sasha Obama and countless others who have been unfairly targeted by bias, we must commit to being active participants in the fight for a just and equitable society. Now is the time for all of us to reflect on our roles in combating discrimination. It is not enough to be passive observers of injustice. We must all become active agents of change. Each of us has the ability to make a difference, whether through our actions, our words, or our advocacy. The path forward is challenging, but with concerted effort and a shared commitment to equality, we can build a better, more inclusive future for all.